Hughes, do you think based on that quote or anything that you understand from the Bible or spirit of prophecy, do you think at the point of legislation of Sunday law and or passage of Sunday law, will there be an exception for Orthodox Jews or the Jews by race, or do you think that's not a big issue that may come into play or delay some of the timing?
I don't believe, ma'am, there's going to be any exceptions. I don't believe anybody is going to be granted mercy, because the very idea, ma'am, of Sabbath, the devil has hated it since creation. It's the one thing that tells why God deserves worship and not Lucifer. It's the Sabbath. It's Him as Creator. And I don't believe anybody will be given exception. I believe there will be, and this, ma'am, is where it gets a little bit sticky, but, you put together several events. We see chaos in our world, economic chaos and turmoil. There could be another terror attack that will be blamed on Islam again, but in actuality it's being engineered by Edward Egan in New York. That's where it's being engineered. He's planning it, he's plotting it, because, ma'am, they want to create such chaos in our world because they want to bring forth a solution, and that's Sunday. And, ma'am, I believe there will be such a crisis, and we're going into it right now. We're going into it as a people. We see it right before our eyes. IOUs, John, that's right.
Pastor Bill, hold on a second. We have questions and answers, and our time is short on the tape also. I want to be able to govern this fairly, and we can have 2 or 3 questions. But what's hard for us is on tape, if you just blurt out your question. We would like for everyone to hear the question. So if you can wait until we can bring a microphone around to you, we greatly appreciate it. Who's next? In the back here?
The gentleman in the orange shirt. I can see that orange.
Thank you so much. The Mormon Church uses the term Sabbath during their Sunday worship. Is it an attempt to usurp the actual doctrinal value? Or what is it? Is it politics?
Well, if you look at Dies Domini, the letter, the encyclical by John Paul that was written by Joseph Ratzinger in 1999, every verse in the Bible that we apply to the Sabbath, he applies it to Sunday. And so there is a mind warping of people in our world today that they believe that Sunday is actually the Sabbath day. Mormons and everybody believe that. They're being taught that. That just behooves us even more, as we talked about this morning, to be repairers of the breach. We need to just spread this message far and near. You say, but I don't like to knock on doors. Well, you can put books in bags and go down the street and just fire them on people's lawns. That's what Charles does. And other people I know do the same thing. Ellen White describes a time where she says, God's children will be running from house to house. Running from house to house. That doesn't mean you're knocking on every door. You've got literature. You can start down a block and within 2 minutes, you can have a book on every doorstep. You don't have to ring a doorbell. You don't have to knock on a door. You can put the book right on the doorstep. You don't have time for controversy. We've got a world to warn. A world to warn. John.
Well, the tares who were planted by the enemy, according to Jesus, can the tares become wheat?
John, my understanding is that the tares, as Christ's parable, that's in Matthew 13, the tares are the evil ones. Those who are not walking with Christ. John, I don't want to limit. I don't want to limit because you take, for example, Manasseh. the son of Hezekiah? I mean, for all intents and purposes, you'd look at Hezekiah or Manasseh and you'd say, well, he was a terror. I mean, look what he did in Jerusalem. What he brought to Jerusalem in the days of Isaiah. He killed Isaiah. He destroyed worship in the sanctuary. He did everything that you could possibly do to destroy the name of God. And yet in the Babylonian prison, he was converted. So, John, there is no question that there are people in Seventh-day Adventism today that are hell-bent to destroy this church, to destroy these messages in as subtle and adroit manner as possible. Okay? Those people, John, unless they repent, they're lost. They're lost. Betty, and then we'll get to this one.
All right. Anyone interested in coming out with us? We go every Thursday night at Market Night on 7th and State Street. If you want to help us hand out the three angels' messages and declare the gospel of Jesus Christ, we start at 6 o'clock at night on 7th and State. It's a market night, and also tomorrow, and we're going to start trying to go out to the art show. From 7 to 3 o'clock, we'll be in VE19 space. And a lot of Spanish material goes out tomorrow, usually, and it's a flea market. And we declare the three angels' messages, and we go libros gratis, and they really do pick up a lot of our material.
Awesome.
And anybody, please come help us. We'll have an ice chest with some cold water, and bring a hat, nice big hat, because you're going to be out in the sun. But if you want to share the three angels' messages with us, come out and join us, please.
Betty, I appreciate you sharing that very much, very much. Folks, Eugene and Betty and others, they're involved actively in doing evangelism. It's not just knocking on a door. It's going to flea markets. It's going to fairs. It's having booths. There's so many ways we can hand out literature. You just got to do it. Got to do it.
A very quick one. How do you evaluate the Gaza slaughter? Is Pope involved, and in what way? President Obama wants to have a dual state, right? But do you foresee it happening? What do you think of that story?
In the Gaza Strip? Revelation 18:24. Revelation 18:24, it says, in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. When we have mass murder, when we have war, when we have people dying by the thousands, according to Revelation 18:24, the responsibility for that is in her. And her is Babylon the Great. The papacy is behind that. The whole point with Middle East conflict, the war in Iraq, create enough trouble in the Middle East, create enough death, enough destruction, enough sorrow, that the people will say, why can't we have peace? Why can't there be peace over here? Can't somebody come to the city of peace, Jerusalem, and restore peace to this troubled area? Well, who will be the person that will be brought forth as the great man of peace? You know something? Just between you and me, there's a guy standing right over here. His name is Eddie.
You got 3 books.
You know what?
I understand that before you leave, we'll be passing out Enemy Unmasked and the Secret Terrors out at the front door. 1 per family, okay? Make sure everybody gets a copy. And well, it's in the safe, isn't it, back there? So we need to pull it out so that everyone can get a copy.
There are 3 cases of
Three
the
cases.
secret terrorists, 2 cases of the enemy unmasked.
So everyone can get a copy.
Anybody else?
Yes, Pastor, there's some Adventist pastors that are actively promoting the Muslim agenda and trying to apply Sister White's writings to it. Can you comment about that?
Absolutely. Number 1 is very well documented that all the leaders in Islam are 33rd degree Masons. It's documented evidence. The Masonic order today is controlled at the very top by the Black Pope, by the Jesuit general. So all the Islamic leaders in the Middle East, as 33rd degree Masons, they do the bidding and carry out the instructions of the Black Pope. It's very clear, and in fact I wrote about it in The Enemy Unmasked. Somehow we get this idea that Islam is somehow an independent force. I mean, we're overwhelmed by that in the press. We're overwhelmed by it. The fact is that Islam was a creation of the papacy. The papacy used Islam to drive the Jews and the Christians out of Jerusalem so that the papacy could then rule the world from Jerusalem. The reason why the Crusades were fought over Jerusalem and over Israel was because once the Islamic generals conquered Jerusalem, the papacy said to them, now, give us Jerusalem. The Muslim leaders said, if you want it, come and get it. That's why the Crusades were fought. That's why. And now we have seen over the last 100-odd years, all of the Middle East are coming into line, doing exactly as Rome tells them to do. That's what's happening. Jackie.
How does this fit with Stephen Dickey's work among the Muslims? As I remember, he thinks that, well, how does this fit with what Stephen Dickey said?
As far as I understand, Jackie, and I don't want to do a disservice to Stephen Dickey, somebody sent me some tapes of his. And like I said, I don't want to misquote or misapply.
I know.
Okay, I believe what Stephen Dickey teaches is that Islam is being used today to punish the United States of America, and that Islam is going to continue to be used in the world as a force against apostasy in America. Now that's how I understood what he said. My response, Jackie, to what I understood that he said would be this. He does not understand the fact that no one in this world acts independent of Rome unless God has his hand upon them. Okay?
Well, couldn't the two things, the two scenarios, both be operating at the same time?
Jackie, the Vatican allows for no competition, for no one to work at the same time with them who might be at crossroads with them. They don't. Stephen Dickey's idea, Jackie, would be that Islam truly was behind 9/11. Okay? Why I would disagree with him on that is because Revelation 18:24 says that it's the papacy that is responsible for the bloodshed on the earth. And the chapter in Great Controversy called Liberty of Conscience Threatened, which is the very time in which we live, the Spirit of God says nothing about Islam, but 118 times in 19 pages refers to Rome.
That's right. But of course, I do believe that the papacy is controlling Islam, but in a sense it could be said that Islam is behind it. Or I think Stephen Dickey says there are radical Muslims who are behind it, not the people as a whole, not the religion as a whole.
Jackie, there are many, many Muslim people. I've had many letters come to me from all over the world, Jackie. People that are Muslims have read The Secret Terrorist and the Enemy Unmasked. Jackie, they are electrified by the information because it reveals to them that all of the false media that says Islam is who's behind it, Islam is who's causing all this trouble, Jackie, they know it's not true. And The Secret Terrorist and the Enemy Unmasked reveals the truth, and they are thrilled with it. Thrilled with it. What's that?
A handful of radicals that the papacy is controlling.
Well, Jackie, it's the same in Islam as it is in America. It's the radical elements at the very top that are controlled and are subservient to the Black Pope. That then, Jackie, through their influence in their tyrannical, dictatorial type of rule, they then tell others what to do. But Jackie, the one who's calling the shots are not the radical Muslims. That's not what Revelation 17 and 18 says. Yeah. So that's where I disagree with Stephen Dickey. But many Muslim people, they're wide open to the truth today. Many Muslim people, just like you have in many other faiths or walks of life. Oh, absolutely. That's why the message in Revelation 18 is, come out of her, my people, because most of God's people are still in those churches. Yes, sir.
Yes, we have the books ready. It's up to you to tell us when the deacons can distribute your books.
Right ahead.
Okay. If the congregation remains seated, the deacons will pass one per family, and if you need more, you just come with us. So, I think you're going to read so far.
There's a question here. It says the legs of iron represents Rome. What does each leg symbolize? I believe that each iron leg represents the Roman Empire. No, I don't believe it's pagan and papal. I believe that the legs of iron represent the pagan Roman Empire. The feet of iron and clay represents the divisions of the Roman Empire working together with the papacy. Ellen White says when she talks about the feet of iron and clay, she says it's the union of statecraft and priestcraft. That's what she says. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I have heard that when Christ rises and says it is finished before he comes, that the Sunday law has been, judgment is over, the Sunday law. When the Sunday law comes in, judgment is over. Probation closes. That's what I've heard.
Well, actually, ma'am, when the Sunday law comes, Seventh-day Adventists will be judged first. Okay? I believe the spirit of prophecy is very clear in the 7th day of the Bible commentary that the Sunday law will be the final test for God's people. So, ma'am, when the Sunday law comes, at that point, we will make a decision for eternity. We will either be sealed with the Holy Spirit, or we will receive the mark of the beast. Those Seventh-day Adventists, ma'am, that have been sealed will be given the latter rain, will go out and give the loud cry. Okay? And some of those will be martyred. Seventh-day Adventists will be martyred. Those who accept the message and come out of the fallen churches will receive the seal of God and the latter rain as well. Okay? Those who don't in the world and the worldly churches, who reject the message, which will be the bulk of humanity, they will receive the mark of the beast. Now, during that time, ma'am, of the loud cry, when the message goes and the worldly churches are making their final decision and the inhabitants of earth, those Seventh-day Adventists that were marked with the mark of the beast, during that time, they will become the most violent opposers of their former brethren. And when Adventists will be brought before the courts to answer for their faith, those former brethren will be the ones who will stir up the rulers against the faithful children of God. Once everybody in the world has made a decision, then there will be a second probation. That will close probation on all the rest of the world. Then, ma'am, at that time, the time of trouble will begin. Jacob's time of trouble and the 7 last plagues will come.
Which way am I going? This one?
Okay.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
What do you think Mr. Obama and the Pope are up to?
We need a microphone.
Pastor, what do you think Mr. Obama and the Pope are up to in their meeting time now?
Eugene, I honestly believe that the crisis that Rome has created, the financial crisis, I believe, Eugene, that they are planning on how and what they're going to do to continue to make it worse, so that the crisis deepens to the point where a Sunday law can be brought in. I also believe, Eugene, very strongly that it's very possible that we will see something worse than what we saw on 9/11. Very possible that we could see another terror attack. And they could be talking about that as well.